On the line with us, Congressman Ted Deutch. He represents the 21st District of Florida, brilliantly represents the 21st District of Florida. Deutch, DEUTCH.house.gov is his website. You can tweet him at Rep. Ted Deutch. And Congressman, welcome back to the program.
It's nice to be with you again, Tom. It's been too long.
I agree. So I understand, you're from Florida. Thom is the Attorney General, the Chief Law Enforcement Officer of the state of Florida. Donald Trump had this thing he called the Trump University, and several hundred, I guess over 800 Floridians now have had to join a lawsuit in New York that Eric Schneiderman, the AG there, is moving forward, investigating Trump University. What's the latest on Bondi and Donald Trump and this whole bribery plot, or at least that's how it's being characterized?
Well, that's how it's being characterized, and that's how it looks. I mean, to anyone who just takes a look at what's going on here, it looks like a bribe. It's pretty straightforward. You had a newspaper story in Florida about the fact that she was investigating Trump University. You had a $25,000 contribution from the Trump Foundation, by the way, which was illegal because foundations can't give to political campaigns. Nevertheless, $25,000 contribution, and then an announcement that she was not going to pursue the case against this fake university that bilked Floridians out of so much of their hard-earned money. Right. So where this stands now is the people of Florida obviously can't count on their top law enforcement officials. So the members of the other Democratic members of the House Judiciary Committee, with me, sent a letter to the Attorney General and asked the Attorney General to launch an investigation. That's the only way that we can really determine what happened and to ensure that justice will be served at the completion of the investigation.
So it seems to me that if the top law enforcement officer in the state of Florida is Bondi, and she's the one who's been accused of soliciting and taking a bribe here, that the only person above her in Florida is the governor, who, as a CEO of the company that he left to become governor, was in charge of a company that committed the largest Medicare fraud in the history of the United States. He's not going to be prosecuting corporate malfeasance or crimes. And so you're asking Loretta Lynch to look into this. Right. Do I have this right?
That's correct. That's correct. And you, as you point out, we certainly can't expect anyone in Florida to do this. Obviously, Bondi would be the person whose office ought to be worried about situations like this, but she's the one who's implicated. And what's so troubling about it is it's consistent with everything that Donald Trump has already told us during the campaign. Because remember, during the primaries, he stood at these Republican debates and said, "Yeah, I give money to politicians so they'll do what I want." Right.
In fact, he even went so far as to say, I give them money and then they'll kiss my ass. That was his phrase. Right, and I realize it's not totally, I can legally say it on the radio, I probably shouldn't, but that's what this guy who is the Republican nominee for president of the United States said he does. He gives money to politicians and they kiss his ass.
Right, and by the way, at the time, there were a lot of people who heard it, and sure, as with so many of the outrageous things that he says, a lot of people heard it and just said, he's crazy and awful, and I don't know how he's gotten this far. And there were people who said, well, wait a second. If that's what he says, we ought to be taking a closer look at that. We ought to go back and look at all of his contributions, see where he gave the money, and see what he wanted to get in return. And then it sort of fell by the wayside, and now here we are, where it's so clear this isn't even his typical pay for play. This is pay to look the other way. This is pay the lawyer to look away from the potential liability, and in this case, it matters to him because it's personal liability. For this fake university that told people to drain their bank accounts and max out their credit cards so they could get some advice that he never provided to help them in ways that they were never helped.
Right. And plus, I mean, the principal way that Trump got rich is by inheriting his money from daddy. It's like, he got rich the old-fashioned way, like the Koch brothers did, right? They inherited their money from daddy. But had he put his money in a mutual fund, he'd be richer right now than had he done the things he did. So really, the entire Trump University course should have been, be a member of the Lucky Sperm Club, get born into a rich family.
Well, that's true, we think, Tom. But remember, we don't even know if that's what we don't. we have no idea
That's right.
what his real financial situation is because he won't divulge his taxes.
Yeah, he might be more in debt than fill in the blank. I mean, the guy might be totally broke. So what we're talking with Congressman Ted Deutch of Florida, represents Florida in the House of Representatives here in Washington, D.C. And Congressman, you and your colleagues have asked Loretta Lynch, the Attorney General, to look into this Pam Bondi Donald Trump scandal. Have you heard anything back from them?
Have not heard back yet. I'm headed out of town to go back to Florida a little later this afternoon, and I'm going to put a call in on my way to the airport. So hopefully we'll at least see if we can. Well, at least try to understand when we're going to get a response. And it's funny, Thom. I mean, what's really infuriating about a lot of the coverage around this in the general media outlets is they're not concerned about justice, and they're not concerned about doing the right thing. It's all about politics. And so everyone likes to ask me, well, you don't expect the Justice Department to actually pursue an investigation against the Republican nominee for president this close to a presidential election, as if we should simply press a pause button on the lives of all of those people who were preyed upon by this guy and tell them just hang on for a little bit. We'll try to get back to you later.
Well, and the last I looked, the Republicans have not said, hey, there's an election going on. Let's not pick on Hillary Clinton.
Right. They're calling for every single day. They're looking for some new. They're making some new outrageous assertion. So of course that's the case. And if you look at the responses, this is the other thing that is so telling. If you look at the responses from Pam Bondi, if you look at what Trump has to say about it, the response is always the same. Every time throughout this entire campaign, there is a legitimate criticism leveled against him. The response is, it's a political hit job.
Right.
These are political hacks.
Right. And it's not. Congressman, we're out of time, but hang on just a second, please. We're going to get stepped on.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann program. Call 202-808-9925.
Congressman Ted Deutch, hey, don't be a stranger. I hope you come back on the program again.
We'll make sure it happens.
Thank you.
Tom.
Good talking with you. We'll be back.